Welcome back to the Handlebar Podcast. As you know, this is an honest conversation type of podcast where we talk about faith and practically following Jesus. Before we jump in, there are a few quick things that we want you to know about. First, we love it when you ask us questions. So if you have one, submit it on our website at thehandlebarpodcast.com. Next, if you love the podcast, there are a handful of ways that you can share the love and help continue to support what we do. The first way is through sponsorship. This is a good opportunity to get your message out there via our podcast. Go to the contact form on our website and let's connect. Also, we have merch. It's a great way to support what we're doing and spark fun conversations. If you didn't know, Elyssa has a solo album, Wearing a Blindfold and Running, and Sarah Beth dropped a worship album, Foolish Offering. These albums are so good. You can stream it anywhere you listen to music. And lastly, Erin has an incredible book out called Big Jesus. It has wild stories about growing in your faith and walking with Jesus in everyday life. It's so good. Okay, let's jump into today's episode.
What's up, everybody? We are back. Handlebar Podcast here.
Back in action.
Elyssa, Erin. This is the first time we've been alone in a long time.
On the
podcast.
Yeah, on a podcast. Yeah. Is it weird to you that we don't have the same last name anymore? Because it's weird to me sometimes.
You know, it was weird. I think the first couple months you were married, I found myself a lot of times having to correct myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And I can't even really fully think of some of the context because it's even weird just to say your full name.
I know.
Like Elyssa Smith. But I would find myself doing that, and then I would be like, wait, I mean Figueroa. And maybe it was typing in, like, information on a podcast or things like that. I don't remember, but I remember that was where it would be weird. I would be like, wait, it's not Smith. It's Figueroa. And then I saw Michael do it one time. Mm-hmm. You were on stage with him somewhere, and he said Smith. And Joel from the seats he said something
He said
about
Figueroa.
Yeah, Figueroa.
yeah.
And it was in that moment that I was kind of laughing because I was like, man, I used to do that a lot right when y'all were first married, but I feel like I haven't done it as much. So it's not as weird now. I think one of the reasons it's not as weird now is because it's Joel.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Like if your last name was like Kalmbacher, I'm just trying to think of a super random.
Not that Kalmbacher's a bad name.
Yeah, but the point I'm trying to make is I was trying to think of something very random for us.
Yeah.
Because it's Joel, I mean, I've said this maybe never on the podcast, but when you started dating Joel, it was so weird for me that I felt like one of my best friends is now dating my sister. Mm-hmm. And long before you guys started dating, Joel and I would use language like brothers with each other. For sure. So I remember
he wasn't a stranger, so it wasn't like this.
Yeah, but at y'all's wedding, I remember I think I said something like this in my speech at your guys' wedding, like, the brother, you've always been a brother to me, and now it's formal. Mm-hmm. Like, it just is strange. So, anyways, all of that to say, it's not as weird as it could be.
Yeah.
If it was Elyssa Kalmbacher, but it's so random. I don't know where that comes from.
Yeah. Well, what are we doing today? I'm getting us off track. You know what I mean?
Off track. So today, I wanted to talk a little bit about, like, our upbringing. Yeah. Our story. We've kind of alluded to it. Mm-hmm. I've written about it in my book, which was really, really, really profound for me. I think that was the first time I ever really externally processed our upbringing, what we went through as kids. Mm-hmm. It was really cool watching how, before my book was published, I wanted to show mom and dad what I wrote. I didn't want them to read what I wrote after the book came out. I wanted to honor them and saying like, hey, I want you to read this before. But it opened a can of worms for us because I had never talked with mom and dad about what we went through, which is crazy because I had preached about it. I had shared it in like some context of like, hey, here's my story. Here's where God met me. But I had never really talked about it with our parents. Me and you had even talked about it maybe a little bit here and there, but I had just never talked about it with mom and dad. Now I'm writing about it. And so I'm like, hey, if I'm going to put this out, I want to honor you. You need to read it. And I remember it was as awkward as a pin could have dropped when they first read it. And we're sitting there and mom's eyes are kind of big and she's like, I remember she said, I can't believe you remember all of that so vividly, so much detail. And this is like, golly, it had to have been 8, 10, 15 going on close to 20 years after
Yeah.
We had went through it as a family. Now we're just now processing about it. But it was really cool for me seeing how it actually was like a massive, massive level of healing that the Lord did between me, mom, and dad, just because we talked about it.
Yeah, and I think it's lessened some of that eggshell feeling as a family.
Yeah.
You know, because I mean, we were young when their marriage went through that separation, and you know, like we were young, you know, to where again, it's like you often don't process things until hindsight, right? It's like in hindsight
Right.
you learn all these
You don't
things.
even have language a lot of times
You don't
when you're
even,
walking
yeah,
through
in the
it.
moment. It's like really things are only ever learned almost backwards. You know what I mean? So I think, I know it does feel like there's a bit more, maybe peace isn't the right word, but just like an understanding of like, oh, we can acknowledge that was really hard.
That we went through that. So,
and we're okay. You know, like you don't have to have shame and guilt around, like every family has gone through some sort of brokenness, and you know, no family's perfect, no dynamic is perfect. But I think something that I feel like are lucky enough to have is that there was no like major fallout in our family. We're all still very close. We love each other. We love to be around each other. Mom and dad are still together. You know, they love each other, enjoy each other.
Yeah.
And it's like we have this incredible restoration story, you know, where restoration for us look like our parents staying together. You know, for other families, restoration is
And reconciliation between you and I.
And reconciliation between you and I. You know, and in other contexts, it's like reconciliation doesn't always look like families stay together. They do branch out and they move forward in different ways. That doesn't mean either is right or wrong, but I'm like just seeing the beauty of our story personally.
Right.
know?
So what we're talking about, for those of you who don't know, you're like, what are you talking about? What did you guys
for sure.
go through?
We should probably let them in.
I was in third grade. What were you? You've been a fifth grader,
I was
sixth grader? A little older than me.
I was like 5th or 6th grade.
Okay.
Yeah.
Actually, that's not right. I would have been a second grader getting ready to go. I would have been a second grader, actually.
I was in 5th grade.
Okay, so so I would have been a second grader. And I remember the day, you know, Elyssa and I are I'm using your name, like if I'm not talking to you, to the listeners, that we are the only siblings.
Yeah, it's just you and I. We don't have any other siblings.
And we had Sparky and Summer there for a while, but
Our little
I don't know if you
dogs.
remember Summer.
Yo,
Summer
was
the dog
chaotic.
that would knock us down.
Yeah.
Okay, and I just remember the day. I remember Mom was in the bathroom. This is how I remember it. Mom was in the bathroom. She was putting her makeup on. She was getting ready. I remember it as a bright, sunny day.
Yeah, me too. I remember I was jumping on the trampoline.
Okay.
Some of our friends in the backyard.
And Dad calls us into the living room.
Yeah, Dad calls into the living room, and it was like, hey, he was like kind of telling our neighborhood friends, like, hey, you guys need to go back home. We have some like, we need to talk to Aaron and Elyssa.
I had been in my bedroom.
You know.
Dad came and got me from the bedroom, and I meet you on the couch.
Yeah.
Which turns out you were outside.
I was outside, yeah.
And I remember that. I remember it being so sunny outside. And I remember Dad kneeling down in front of us. And what I remember is Mom walking in and Mom kind of standing in the doorway by the couch. Dad is in front of us on his knee. I remember Dad's lip starting to quiver a little bit, and him saying, hey, your mother and I are going to get a divorce. And for me, I always tell the story this way. I was in second grade. I don't know I can't even pronounce divorce at the time.
Yeah.
But I remember the look on your face that said everything. It was all I needed to know in my heart to go, whatever he's telling us is not good. And that's kind of, as far as the memory goes that day, that's what I remember.
Yeah.
I remember getting this awful news. And then I remember over the next couple weeks, we would move out of our house, and
it all happened so.
I remember you
fast.
and I moving into an apartment with Mom.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember us moving into an apartment with Mom. I remember too that initial like couch conversation. It feeling like lightning struck my heart in half, because I would say our generation, we grew up where divorce was becoming more normal. And for our parents' generation, that was extremely taboo and not normal. Like, you stayed in a marriage no matter what was going on. And I remember even hearing some of my like elementary school friends, you know, it was like this, oh my gosh, so-and-so's parents got a divorce.
It's like the whispers.
Yeah, it was so taboo and so unaccepted and just like socially weird, that there was also this perception that if you were divorced of what you were perceived by, whatever. And so I just remember like hearing, you know, adults kind of here and there mention these people got divorced, those people are getting a divorce, and blah, blah, blah. And then to hear it from your own parents was like, wow, like I feel like I had a little bit more of an understanding of the gravity of what that meant. And it really scared me. And it devastated me, you know? It's like, I mean, we didn't really know what was taking place, obviously. And then when we moved into that apartment with Mom, and then sometimes we'd go stay at Grandma's with Dad. And that was just a weird, you know, and I remember us too. Sometimes you would be with Mom and I would be with Dad at Grandma's. And then sometimes you would come and I would go back with Mom. And so like, even though
there was this figuring out of what does life look like now that our family's broken.
Exactly. Yeah. And so I don't remember us always being at that apartment together. I remember us being separated a bit, and then you and I would be together in different places. It was just a weird, like...
I think, you know, when I think about that time, I can remember, and this is just what I remember. I have one memory with Dad that I think of, maybe two, from that time. Again, I was much younger than you, but I remember him teaching us his new phone number. He was like, you've got to memorize this number. You know, it was the thing where we didn't have cell phones back in the day. That's what we did.
We had to memorize numbers, yeah.
And I remember sitting in the truck with me. He was dropping me off to go home to the apartment, and he was teaching me the phone number to memorize it, so I knew how to get a hold of him. And you know, our dad is incredible, so I'm sure he was around so much there, and it even sounds like you have more memories. I just don't, when I think of that time, I think there was part of my heart for the longest time that just shut off any memory associated with that season. That I think back of that memory, and I just remember that gloomy apartment. I remember, you know, being there with you. I remember there was one time that you and I were alone, and you were helping me like do my evening shower. Like you were like helping me get the water ready. You were helping me get ready for bed because again I was so little. Yeah. And those are just some of the memories I think of. And I think one of the good memories I have from that season is the closeness you and I discovered in that season. Yeah. I would say from my perspective, I just remember so many times that I felt like you were taking care of me. It was like the one good thing that came out of brokenness with our parents was there seemed to be a drawing near of you and I one to another. I'm kind of feeling emotional as I'm talking about it a little bit. I'm like, whoa. But yeah, I don't remember a lot of, you know, I remember going to Grandma's and she would make me a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. But, but I do know that in my heart, you know, because we were raised in church. Anytime the door was open, we were there. I remember there was something you're talking about, felt like lightning struck you. I felt like what happened to me was, I wouldn't have had this language as a second or third grader, but now as an adult, I look back and there was this like feeling of middle finger to the Lord. Like, I don't know if you're real, but if you are, I hate you and I want nothing to do with you. And that would show up for the next decade. The next decade, I would, you know, be in so much secret sin. I would eventually end up, I mean, you know my story, but eventually get into drugs and partying and messing around with girls and was just so broken on the inside, wanted nothing to do with God. Yeah. But it would show up from, that's a beautiful picture of feeling you're getting struck by lightning.
Yeah, and I think even for myself, like, I had a lot more in that moment, I had a lot more disappointment with church at that moment than necessarily with like our home dynamic, although that was huge. Don't get me wrong. But like after mom and dad, like we were all living in separate places, I really tried to find a place to belong in church. And a lot of so I would get super involved with the worship teams almost instantly. It's like when a youth group finds out that you can play an instrument,
They're
done.
like,
You are now on staff on your youth group worship team. You know what I mean? And so for me, it was like,
how old at this point?
At this point, I'm like 13, 14.
Okay.
And I was playing bass at a church as a 13-year-old little girl. The guitar was bigger than me. Yeah.
I remember you hauling that bass around.
Dude, I would have to haul that thing around. Like, my shoulders are still in shambles from that. You know what I mean? But, like, it was, like, music was coming so naturally to me, and I really enjoyed it. And I also knew that at the time, I didn't know that I was experiencing the presence of God.
And you already played the piano at this point?
I already played the piano.
So bass was second instrument.
Yeah, bass was second, and then I was also starting to learn acoustic. And so, when you're at a small town church and anyone can play bass, you're on the worship team.
You're on.
And I remember mom or dad picking me up. If dad wasn't at the apartment, he would pick me up early, take me to church, and I would go for sound checks, and I'm like 13, 14 years old.
Wow.
So for me, I found a lot of significance in trying to belong somewhere, and music and worship and church was where I was trying to fit in. And then just the reality of brokenness that takes place. Churches are full of broken people and people not being who they proclaim to be on a stage. I saw that at a very young age. I feel like a lot of what's happening now in the world and with church, like people are like, these people are not who we thought. I'm like, I've been seeing that since I was 13. And in one sense, I'm kind of thankful that I discovered that young, because I feel like it saved a perspective for me as I've gotten into ministry and felt called to it in some degree, where I'm like, what I will not do is hide.
Yeah.
Because as a 13-year-old, this has been happening since day one,
right.
But so anyway, before, God has like really redeemed that perception and that perspective of church for me. 13, 14 years old, getting involved in a youth group, being on a worship team, and just, really trying to find a place to belong in youth group, and then finding out people are not who they are, having really wonky experiences in church. That was where I felt more hurt by God.
So less feeling hurt at home.
Yes.
It was more so feeling hurt by leaders.
Yeah, more so feeling hurt by leaders, and my perspective of God was church. So church was God and God was church. And
right. So what people
did, the people of
did.
God were God, and God was his people. If this makes sense.
Yeah.
Maybe there's a better way to say it. And so when they failed me,
they
God
hurt you,
failed
he
me.
hurt. Yeah.
And then knowing, because too, I'm like, when you're experiencing such pain as a child and you don't have language for any of that, I was just looking for relief. I'm looking for love. I'm looking for peace, because our home was in the midst of trying to find stability, trying to find peace,
Right.
And our parents were doing the absolute best they knew what to do, And again, like, I grew up so loved. I feel that, I feel so loved by mom and dad, and they've done an incredible job with what they've gone through. And
because for context, at this point in the story, the separation period only lasted about a year.
Yeah, about a year.
Where we were in an apartment with mom. Mm-hmm. Dad was, I think, with
They
grandma
were going
and grandpa.
to marriage counseling and doing things, because they actually decided.
Never formally divorced.
They never formally divorced. They tried as much as they could to save their marriage, which they did.
So they ended up buying a house. We all move in back together.
Yeah.
And now this is where we're back together as a family.
Uh-huh.
And this is what's going on for us at home while you're talking about
totally. So I'm in the midst
ministry
of,
and being on worship teams and stuff like that. Yeah.
Mom and dad are trying to figure out, do we stay together? Do we get divorced? So they're going through counseling the things that they were doing in the midst of, I'm we're kind of hopping from church to church at this time.
Oh,
if you
I
remember, we
I
went to so
remember.
many different churches because it's like we'd go to a church for 6 months, and then that pastor would end
take all the money and leave.
Yeah, he was like embezzling money.
Yes.
Something, and the youth pastors were a part of it. I'm devastated, and that to me shut my heart off. Where I'm like, again, it's like if God is real, He can't be good. And what do I do with pain? Like, if, it was just, I just had so many questions until I actually met God for myself. He
Right.
came and showed me what He was really like, I would say. So anyway, I think for me, it wasn't until I had my own encounter with God where I told God how I felt about Him.
So, okay, when was this in the storyline? And it sounds like this was probably for you a culmination of like all of these years now bottlenecking to this moment with God.
For sure.
What was this moment? Where was this moment?
I was 17 at this moment. So again,
so you've been on the worship team for 4 years.
I've been on a worship team at
a church.
At a church.
Somewhere or youth
just
group.
popping around wherever we, tried to go. And then we kind of were going, we kind of weren't going to church. It was like very inconsistent.
Right.
I feel like somehow we found ourselves in church somewhere almost every Sunday, for better or for worse. Just looking.
There for a while, I remember we were driving an hour on Saturday nights to go to a church an hour away.
Yeah, to go to church an hour away, and then that just became less practical. Anyway, and then I don't know, it was just like, I don't fully remember this, but I'm like, there was a season where I don't even remember going to church at all. And maybe that was true, maybe that's not, but it's how it felt. Anyway, I started serving at another youth group, and I started going to that youth group because I had a friend in high school attempt to commit suicide, and that devastated me. And
it was like more pain on top
more
of pain
on top of more pain on top of where's God, who's God, what's God. And so in our friend group, it was 4 of us, and then this girl had her encounter, and then my other friend, her mom was dropping her off at a youth group every Wednesday, and she was like, why don't you just visit this youth group with me, and maybe we can talk to someone about what's happened with our friend. And so that's how I started going to youth group again, was after this experience when my friend tried to commit suicide. And
you went with a friend.
I went with a friend.
And I think I remember you coming back from that youth group telling mom and dad, we should try this church.
100%. I went to this youth group, and then it was like, I went to this youth group 2 weeks before they were going to summer camp, and I ended up in Colorado on this summer camp with this youth group and these youth pastors I barely knew. But that was the camp I encountered God in.
Okay.
And when I came back from that camp is when I told mom and dad, I think we should visit this church.
Okay.
And
is that the camp Jeremy Riddle was leading worship?
Yeah, Jeremy Riddle was leading worship at this camp, and God met me. He found me in these mountains of Colorado at this youth camp, and everything unfolded for me. It's like, I don't know. Yeah, it was like I saw the thread of His goodness through every part where I thought He was bad.
Wow.
And it healed me. And I was like, okay, God, like, I know the reality of church, but You are so far beyond the church system.
Right.
You are God. And I think that's helped me as I've gotten more into ministry and things like that. But anyway, I feel like I'm getting distracted in what I'm saying.
So you were talking about all of this. You finally met Him.
I finally met God. Yeah.
Which, if I remember right, I've heard you tell the story to where you were in the crowd. Jeremy Riddle was leading worship, and you were watching him, and you were going, I don't know what he's doing, but that's what I want to do with my life. 100%. Whatever he's doing is what I want to do.
Mm-hmm. And all the years of playing bass, learning to play acoustic, practicing piano, like feeling peace after I would practice some of my songs, all culminated, I guess, to that one moment where I realized all the peace I had been feeling as I played music was God the whole time. Ooh. It was His presence. And I didn't know that was the presence of God. I just thought, music did something for me. Yeah, music was moving me. And because the same feeling I felt when I would practice songs and play music and just like.
Because the songs you were practicing were old hymns.
They were old hymns, yeah, that grandma was teaching me. You know what I mean? So they were about. And I didn't realize. In that moment, it was like, I've been feeling You this whole time. And like, it literally will still break me if I think about it. Because I'm like, he chased me down.
I can feel the Lord as you're talking
about
it.
Yeah, where I'm like, all of this, like, I have to go find God. I'm like, yo, he required nothing of me. He was haunting me my whole life, for lack of better words. And now I just, like, I finally could just, like, rest in what I knew was always him. And that I think that has been a big piece of, like, I found God for myself, and it has helped me sift through all the pain and all the questions of how I was affected personally by everything we went through as kids. But then that also, it brought me closer to you, because God was changing me. I had more grace, like, in our home environment.
Right, because at this time, you're in high school, and I think I'm either about to be in high school or I'm in high school too.
Yeah, I was starting my last year of high school when I met God.
And I remember, so I remember then when I would have been an 8th grader, 7th grader, 8th grader, because I was a freshman when you were a senior. Mm-hmm. And so your last year of high school would have been when you were a senior and I was a freshman. I noticed a shift in you in the sense of the way you would relate to me. Mm-hmm. Because prior to that, I felt like you were the big sister that I wanted to be around, wanted to hang out with, but you were always annoyed by me wanting to come hang out or be around or things like that.
Or we were just mean to each other.
Yeah, we're just mean to each other.
We just, like,
one time
you were mean to me, I was mean to you.
I wrote "kick me" on a sticky note. Do you remember this? And I put it on your back, and then I kicked you.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But Dad saw that happen,
and
he ran outside and he took the sticky note off you, put it on me, and he kicked me.
Yeah, honestly, like, maybe we should, like, edit that part out. Like, our dad loves us.
Your dad loves us. He was a great dad. But I never kicked you again. I'll say that.
Yeah.
So the whole time this is happening for you, you're encountering God. I'm now a freshman, and I'm like, the pain for me is starting to really take effect of my inner world, which no one would know because I'm being dragged to church too.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know how to play the part. I know how to sit in the seat. I know how to act right. And then, in life for real, just was caught up in all kinds of sin. And I have always described it as that day that Dad said we're going to get a divorce. It was as if the enemy wrote on a sticky note, if you love God, if you serve him, you're going to end up with a broken family. And then he put that sticky note on my heart. I used that language of sticky note. It was the internal belief system I was living under, the lie I was living under. So I was just living life with this lie on my heart. I said, if you love God and you serve him, you'll end up with a broken family. So, of course, I want nothing to do with him. Like, no way. And, throughout high school, I remember you got saved and you gave your life to God. And because then I remember you being somewhat of like a mentor for me. Like, I remember calling you times that I would start to dabble in the presence of God, start to dabble in the Bible, or like I maybe want to give my life to the Lord. I would call you. And
this was why I lived in Dallas.
Yeah,
while
because
I was
then you
at
moved
Christ
to
for the
Dallas.
Nations. Yeah, I ended up coming to Christ for the Nations, how I got to Dallas. And you would call me, and we never really talked on the phone before that. And every once in a while, you would call me and ask me questions about God or how I was doing. And I was like, this is weird.
Because I remember after you moved, I used to get high with my friends. I would smoke marijuana. And I would go home and I would sit in the shower and listen to Drake. This is just ultimate depressed moment right here.
Emo voice.
Yes, and I would just sit in the shower and like feel depressed. It was like, this thing. But there was always this subtle, when you say you look back and you could see the like intertwining of God, I can look back at those moments, and also there was a subtle hint of the presence of God that was present in me sitting in that depression. I don't know how to fully describe it other than when you say God was haunting you, it was like he was there. And so I would have this urge. I just need to pick up the phone and call Elyssa. She'll probably know what to say. And I don't remember a lot of what you said, but I just remember you listening, you being intentional, and you pointing to like, hey, God is who he says he is. And, and then when I was a senior, I had an encounter with God similar to you in the mountains of Colorado, except for mine was at a public high school track meet. And I'm getting ready to warm up for a race, and I just have this encounter with God. And the only way I know how to describe that encounter with God is it's as if he walked up to me and ripped that sticky note off my heart. Wow. And in a moment began to heal me of all of this past trauma of pain that started ultimately, I would say, that day And there's so many different avenues and outlets we could do. Maybe we could do a part 2 to our story and talk about, now what it was like after giving our life to the Lord and following the Lord. But I think this is so foundational to the history we have with God, even the longevity we have with God, looking back and seeing where God met us in the midst of a broken family. And it's what you said, our story, we get to look at this and we get to say, hey, reconciliation looked like our family stayed together. Our parents are still married. You and I we have a podcast together, and this is such a small percentage of what our life actually looks like. But I say that because we're doing ministry together, but we do life together, and our spouses are friends, and but I look back and I see the hand of the Lord with us through it all. And I think oftentimes people don't hear stories like this that end with the Lord reconciling the family in that way, which is what I think makes our story unique, which is oftentimes why I feel this responsibility is not the right word, but maybe zeal to share our story, which we've never shared like this.
No, I agree, because I think it just to give hope, where it's like there is reconciliation, and also there's real choices involved. Like mom and dad made choices to stay together. Right. Mom and dad made choices to go to counseling. I made choices with the Lord. You made choices with the Lord. But also what's so beautiful is seeing the thread of, like, Scripture says no one comes to the Lord unless drawn by the Spirit. And I believe the Spirit is always drawing. Always, always, always. Like, even after we give our lives to the Lord, there is a drawing of the Spirit to, like, want to know Him more, And I feel like eventually you catch up to the Spirit's pursuit, if that makes sense. Yeah. You will run straight into the wall of the Lord's pursuit of your heart. Eventually, I believe that those moments, like, if God is pursuing you, like, you're going to have that opportunity to choose to pursue Him back. And you're going to, like, and I think no matter what we've gone through or the things that we're maybe facing right now, where I'm like, okay, how is the Lord wanting to pursue me in this? And where do I just, like, lean on Him in that,
Wow. Because that's true. I would have never said it this way, but I'm looking back now, and it's like, despite everything we walked through as a family, God was pursuing us.
100%. Because I wasn't pursuing God, to be quite frank with you. And neither of us were.
Neither was I.
But He was pursuing us. And I think that is the beauty of Jesus coming and dying on the cross, is like, when I read the Bible, and I see, like, oh, he and the Bible says this too, like, I chose you before you chose me. You did not choose me, but I chose you. And I'm like, man, it gives me so much hope to know, like, no matter what I'm going through, there's a pursuit of the Spirit for my heart throughout every single thing that I'm going through. Yeah. And I look back and see how there was so much opportunity for trauma and for pain and for any of this stuff to take over. And some people's stories are tougher than others. Like, I can't point to why it seems like it takes some people, 30 years to find God, or 30 years to, like, surrender. I don't know. But what I do know is that God doesn't just give up on somebody.
Right. That God is pursuing.
And He's pursuing. And I think every day that we wake up and, the sun comes through our windows, or we wake up to a cloudy, rainy day, it's His mercy giving me one more chance to turn His way. And that's just what I feel, and this is kind of a left turn, but I just feel to say that, literally every moment, every day that we get to wake up in the morning, like, is a fresh opportunity to run into God's pursuit of us. And He knows how to meet us and where to find us, and to, like, grab a hold of us. And I just see that for our family. And I think that's something that you, me, mom and dad, our spouses, that we choose the Lord every day now, because we know He's choosing us first.
Right.
And I think that's what's helping, because that doesn't mean this topic, is easy to talk about with mom and dad, or always easy to talk about even with us. Like there's real pain there and things that we experience, and maybe we could regret. And at the same time, we can face any type of lingering pain that's there, because we've all seen what God can do, and we can trust that it's like, ooh, this is a little tense, but that doesn't mean it's to be avoided. Like there's something God is doing in this, you know.
I want to end by saying one of the things that I'm realizing now, where we're talking about God's pursuit, for you it happened at a church camp. Which oftentimes, if you're contending for a family member and you're like, oh, like, yes, this is, I'm praying for this person or whatever. Oftentimes, like as family, what we do, like I think about our grandma and grandpa, they're like, we got to get them to church camp. And you got there.
Yeah, I got there.
You got there. and you met God at church camp, and praise God, that's the hope. And look at the testimony. For me, I didn't get there. It wasn't church camp. It was a public high school track meet. And what I love about that is God's pursuit met both of us in completely different places.
100%.
One in a space where you would expect to find him, and one in a space where you wouldn't. And I think it just speaks to the beauty of who he is. And I just want to end with that for anyone who's listening, that you can apply this story to someone you think of. I want to tell you, there's two prayers you can pray. You can pray, God, help me get him in the church. Help me get him to that church camp. Or God, meet him in the places I don't think you can, or I don't think you will, the places that are unexpected. But I think I want to wrap up today's praying for anyone who's walking through brokenness with a family, or they know someone who is, that I want to end just by praying for them. So
yeah.
Lord, I thank you for what you've done with our family. I thank you for what you've done in Elyssa and I, in our relationship as siblings. Lord, I thank you for what you've done in reconciling and redeeming and restoring our family. Lord, although our family is not perfect, you've done so much. You've brought us so far. And Lord, I just lift up anyone who's listening, watching, who's thinking of someone. They have someone in mind. Maybe it's their own family. Maybe it's a friend or a friend's family. Lord, but I just declare, Lord, you are the same yesterday, today, and forevermore. The same zeal that you pursued us with, Lord, you're pursuing them with. And I just declare, Lord, would your pursuit meet them where you find them, Lord, that it would be maybe in places that they would expect, or maybe it's places they don't. But regardless, Lord, that you would meet them, that your pursuit would find them. And I thank you for stories that are marked with the testimony and the beauty of God. And so we love you, Lord. Amen. Hey, I hope this helps. We welcomed you into our story. So, yeah.
Yeah. We'll share more later too.
Yeah.
Anyway.